It is actually a push for reversing all the transformational gains we've made. All of a sudden, we must not remember that in 1994, Mayor Campbell wouldn't be a mayor. Mayor Campbell wouldn't be a mayor. She wouldn't be a mayor. We must forget that all of a sudden. We must forget that in 1994, every head of government in the state was a white male. Every mayor of a city was a white male. Every municipal manager was a white male. All of a sudden, must remember, forget that and say, it never happened, time is gone. And in so doing, we are trapped as beneficiaries of change to forget and need to be reminded. Sorry, when I talk to miners, I'm a mine worker myself. I'm in that portfolio now. I tell them that the Nationalist Party was in power for 40 years. It never produced a single Afrikaner CEO in 40 years. Not one. In mining. Everywhere else there were some, and many others, but in mining there was never a single Afrikaner CEO in 40 years. Now I'm putting change into context. We are in office under 30 years. I can tell you 3 major mining companies are having female CEOs. Female. 2 black, 1 Afrikaner. CEO. After 131 years, the Mineral Council, the old Chamber of Mines, is having a female president. Black female president, after 131 years. Now, this is what must be reversed. This is what must be reversed. This is what we must actually remind ourselves that, listen, if we're reckless, it is going to be reversed. Therefore, we talk to our recklessness. We can quantify the progress made. That is being reversed. We are taken back to apartheid theory of black leadership equal to mediocrity. Bumnyama, we're mediocre for the sake of being black, and therefore, equationing black excellence is a myth. We must believe that blacks can't be excellent, they can't be competent. But we are called upon to own up. Don't blame somebody else for the mistake we commit. We must not do that. We must not do that. Comrade Mbeki made a statement that, the outcome of the local government in November reflected a resurgence of the right wing and the collapse of the left wing. I said no. That's not true. I reminded them the ANC collapsed, went to under 50, but the DA collapsed by 5.6%. Yeah? People don't remember that. In Cape Town, they lost 15 seats in Cape Town. So it cannot be the resurgence of right and collapse of the left. It is the fragmentation of the left. That's the reality of the matter. And the duty we're having is to go back and say, what is it that we must own? What mistakes have we committed? But let me give you a few enemies of progress. One is that if you plant wind, you harvest whirlwind. Yeah. If you plant wind, you harvest whirlwind. How jala moya ukotula sisukutsana. Uba uhlwayela umoya uvuya isitshingitshane. That's it. Now, what we are seeing is the whirlwind that we're harvesting. We must attend to it. Let me give you a few. We must appreciate the fact that one of our biggest enemy is ego. Ego. You know, ego, when the ego fills the room, there's no space to breathe and think. Ego is so big. And the ego manifests in few ways. It manifests in few ways. One is selfishness. Kutindim. It's not us. It's me. Kwedemantash, me. Two is arrogance. Look down upon everybody else. You are bigger than yourself. Is destructive engagement. When you engage people, you don't extract ideas. You seek to destroy the next person and win the argument. That's destructive. It is being stuck in your head and refuse to engage with the world around you. That is the ego. And accept that this is reality. Now, Campbell, I'm talking to the fact that I have a responsibility to internalize that you are the mayor here. Okay. I don't have your number. I have property here. From time to time, electricity gets switched off in my property. Now, I must phone and say, why is light switched off in my property? Only one person stays there. One person stays there. Why is the electricity 20,000 rand? I must have that number. Now, it is dealing with imaginary audience played. Audience engekhoyo uya-imagine le audience udila ngayo. Une-ego khulu ngaka. And that deprives you of the ability to think and to lead. Now, that is what we should own up. Now, I'm talking to myself as the leader of the ANC solely. The ANC that was led by Chris, this ANC that governs in alliance with the Communist Party and COSATU, okay? And it is us that sow the wind and harvest the whirlwind. One other enemy is something I call self-deception, where you deceive yourself. You know? You stay in your own world. You're in your own world, you know. You are an enemy from within yourself. You remain in a box and absolute about your views. Toyincingayo is everything and nobody else must throw you ideas. Those who disagree with you concretely, Baba Shingang, you come to me, you say, I disagree with you, you put your own reasons. Instead of engaging you, I label you the enemy. close and the organization is not mattering, it is you who matters. Reality in your face is ignored in favor of narrow interests. Reality is in your face. Let me move towards concluding by reminding all of us, that leadership is about messaging. There is power in what you say, there is power in what not to say. Pakut Pungani, Paikal, uyalwa all the time ukujonga man. Suthetha noba yintoni ilizwi liyadala. Ungathethi noba yintoni ilizwi liyadala. Anything you say, you are creating. That is the power of messaging. Now, we must have a discussion about how to overcome this. Now, we are coming out of COVID. I'm saying out because I think we're in a stage where we live with COVID. Okay, we live with it. So, it's no longer a pandemic, it's an endemic. It is not pandemic, it is endemic. Ikon, I took it twice, and I survived it twice. Okay. Shared determination, Austin. Shared determination. I'm not dying. Here am I. I go to hospital, I stay there for 10 days. The doctors say, this thing has attacked your lungs 60%. But I say, no, I must not die. Here am I. So, it has had a serious impact on society. There are many things that we have learned out of that process. We are sanitizing, social distancing, we are wearing masks. As easy, we are going to do them beyond COVID. Good lessons we must retain. The economy was shattered. Comrade Blade, I want to doctor higher education and technology. No research needs. Research scientists. So now, in the middle of a lockdown, I took a decision with the sector. Did you go? At level 5, coal mines must produce at full capacity. Level 4. At level 4, all open cars must produce at full capacity. Yeah. At level 3, all mines must produce at full capacity. Now, people, including Blaze scientists, say to me, you're going to kill the mine workers. Then I say to him, but Blade, the easiest way to kill them is to starve them to death. That's the easiest way of killing them. You just starve them to death, open up. You know, when there was recovery, complete Blade, mining led that recovery. And it is mining that saves the fiscus. So taking decision, taking risk, dealing with the risk instead of waiting for consequences. That's it. The last issue, I want to leave this to Comrade Blade, the general secretary of the Communist Party, in the next session of the program. The Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Many want us to say it's an attack of Russia, an invasion of Russia into Ukraine. I say no. It is the provocation of NATO that wanted to squeeze Russia into a corner. And Russia kicked the dust. It's like anybody. If you are cornered, you know, my mother taught me something basic, Austin. You know, if you are beating up a cat in a hut, you close every exit, you're going to lose your eye. Because the only bright spot in the dark hut is your eye. And the cat will go for your eye. That is what has happened in Russia. That is what happened. But the reality of the matter is that in an impact on us, and somebody was saying it's bad impact, I say it has both good and bad. The bad is that the price of petroleum products is up through the roof. We try to give a relief, it's not sufficient, but fine, let's try it in the short term and see what will happen after 2 months. But our commodities, as a miner, are reaping the bonus. Prices up, price of coal up, price of every commodity up. That is what we should take advantage of. I want to leave it at that, and the rest of the political content I'm leaving to you, Comrade Blade. I'm leaving it to you. I'm just talking about impact of a conflict. Sometimes people say it's far from us. In a world as small as ours, there's nothing that is far from us. Everything is with us. I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much. I hope Comrade Chris Hani has overcome his shortcomings been telling us. Yabona musithina abantu bamnyama siyakholelwa umuntu akafi. That's the only thing we agree with Christians, is that a human being doesn't die. But the only difference in the theory, what happens when he's not dead. Now, lives in eternal life and so forth and so forth. In our case, he communicates with us. And Chris must communicate with us and help us recover, overcome the weakness. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now I'd like to call the MMC of Health and Social Development, Councillor Bakang Litoko, to do a vote of thanks before I hand over to Comrade Tulas Ngesi. Thank you very much.
Dumela. Thank you, Program Director. I was asked to do the vote of thanks, and the truth is that there is so much to be grateful for today. As much as we are grateful to the many dignitaries and officials who have made this special occasion, and here I thank Program Director and Speaker of Council, Councillor Raymond Dlamini, Ministers present today, Minister Leighton Zimande, Minister Tulas Nlaisi, the Gauteng Premier David Makura in absentia, the Speaker of Gauteng Legislature, Mentombi Mekwe, and the provincial leadership in attendance. MMCs and councillors in attendance, Reverend Mapatwe, Minister Gwede Mantashe for his keynote address, Executive Mayor Alderman Tanya Campbell for welcoming us to our beloved city that has changed so much since the 10th of April 1993. Mama Dimpo Hani and her family for faithfully continuing to honor the memory of her husband, the Nkobi family and all political leadership in attendance. But honestly, most of all, I want to thank all those who offered the ultimate sacrifice so that a woman like myself could stand here today as a member of this city's mayoral committee and reflect on how far we have come. The assassination of Chris Hani was the ultimate final turning point towards our democracy. To the many South African patriots who will take us into the future, I also want to thank you. We still have so much work to do to create the kind of South Africa that is worthy of the great sacrifices of our heroes. Chris Hani has given us the opportunity to bring in the next generation of world-changing leaders. Let us keep working towards making that difference. Lastly, I would also like to thank the organizing committee for all the arrangements that went into today and working tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that today is the dignified and memorable event that it is. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I thank you all for honoring us with your presence today. Thank you.
Let me say if they'll allow me. See, they are singing now because they want to start the second program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, comrade.
Short time. Finally, what is the sponsor?
I'm the sponsor.
Okay.
I've taken over already. Is it? Amandla! Amandla! Long live the spirit of Comrade Chris Hani, long live! Long live the spirit of Joe Slovo, long live! Long live the spirit of O.R. Tambo, long live! Long live the spirit of Rolihlahla Mandela, long live! Amandla! Yebambulele kanjani uChris Hani? Yebamzumile uJonyana. Yebambulele kanjani uJonyana, uJonyana. Yebamzumile uJonyana. Lithena ngathi aniyibambanga nje. Amandla! Thank you, comrades. Thank you, comrade. Thank you, Comrade Ibambe. Let me greet Aus Dimpo and the Hani family. The Nkobi family, which is with us here. Ntate Moruti, Ntate Maphatsi. The General Secretary of the SACP, Comrade Blade Nzimande, with Comrade Solima Paila, Comrade Joyce, together with the provincial leadership, which is led by Comrade Jacob Mamabolo and Comrade Jompis. The national chairperson of the ANC, Comrade Gwede Mantashe, who was also here as a government representative and representing the president, not a president, but he is representing the president. The National Executive Committee member, the leader of the ANC, Comrade Jeff Khatebe, and all ANC structures in Ekurhuleni, which are led by the chairperson of Ekurhuleni, who is the former mayor, Comrade Mzwandile Masina, and all the leaders in the region. The COSATU leadership, which is here, and the various affiliates, which are led today by the first Vice President, Comrade Mike Shingange, who's also the President of Nehau. Let me recognize the Mayor of the city, who has hosted us today of Ekurhuleni, Mayor Campbell, the councillors, the officials who are here, who are led by the MM, and all the dignitaries and comrades who have gathered here today. Comrades, on this day, 29 years ago, a political assassin brutally murdered one of the most loved revolutionaries or revolutionary sons of our movement and of our country. It nearly led to the bloodshed. It nearly deferred the freedom. But the vision of the leadership of the movement was able to stop that because of the anger. But the question still remains. Whilst we're talking about Janus Walus, we still need to know the hand behind. Maybe the speakers who are going to be here are also going to reflect on this matter. Ntate Maphatsi, Comrade Chris Hani said he was fighting as a communist. And he said, no, communism is not complex. It's not sophisticated concepts. But he said it's the fight for the poor and the working class. And they are fighting for the basic needs. Housing for all, food security, water and sanitation, basic health, education and training, proper roads, accessible and cheap transport, land for all. That's what he said. So there is a coming together between those who are fighting for justice as Christians and the communists. And we have a lot of communists today who are also Christians. So as I raise these issues, Comrade Blade Nzimande, Comrade Jeff Khatebe, how far are we for what Chris Hani was fighting for? These masses who are unemployed, when we're talking about jobs for all, they are asking questions, how far are we in terms of the basic needs? Our program is very simple today, comrades. I have only 3 speakers. All others will give the messages of support. The COSATU representative, the ANC representative, and the main speaker is the General Secretary of the SACP. I will start then a program. Then I'll allow you, comrades, in between, nimane ke ningena ngengoma. Comrade, the first Vice President of COSATU, you must take the floor and give us the message. Zeleliswe, sizabala zeleliswe, sizabala zeleliswe, sizabala zeleliswe, sizabala zelele, sizabala zeleliswe, sizabala zeleliswe. Sizabala zelelezwe, sizabala zelele. Amandla! Comrades, there's an announcement that there's a vaccine station on our right. Those who are not yet vaccinated, they must visit that. Thank you, Comrade President.
Mandla, long live the member of Chris Hani, long live. Long live the legacy of Chris Hani, long live. Thank you very much, Comrade Program Director, Comrade Tulas, Deputy Chair of the party, the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, Comrade Blade, the National Chair of the ANC, the General Secretary of COSATU, the family of Comrade Chris, our mother, Comrade Limpo, and the children and the grandchildren, and comrades. Thank you for inviting COSATU to submit a message of support in this important day of our hero, in this Heroes Month, Comrade Chris. And thanks to the city for continuing the tradition of annually commemorating our leader. As COSATU, we remember today Comrade Chris Hani, one of the best revolutionaries to have come out of our continent, Africa. We remember so with a lot of nostalgia and with a grieving hearts. We are left cursing the killers, and we are wondering what is it that might have happened had the killers have spared the life of our leader. The assassination of political leaders, particularly the liberators of our continent, sadly, is not a South African phenomenon. It is an African problem, just like the people of Burkina Faso who have lost their liberator, Thomas Sankara, the people of DRC who have lost their leader, Patrice Lumumba, at the hands of colonialism and at the hands of imperialism. We share the pain with all those masses of our African continent who have had their leader's life cut short and left wondering about what would have been. The things that Comrade Chris Hani fought and died for, as we celebrate the 29th of his anniversary, and as we celebrate the 28th anniversary of our freedom, we scan the environment about the current state of affairs in the journey of our revolution. We celebrate his death, his life, his legacy, at a time when the World Bank has just released a report that characterizes South Africa as the most unequal country in the world. When the statistics South Africa have released that the unemployment has actually reached over 50%. And these are the inequalities and the social ills that Comrade Chris Hani was fighting to eliminate. Half of the country's lives
live in poverty or a category called near poverty. The working class and the working poor are priced out of the health care system. The schools do not adequately educate our children, and the majority of whom live without adequate food and or clean water. And these people are repeatedly evicted from their homes. They have their utilities cut off and cannot find jobs. And they are crippled by the punishing debts. And these demands, the social demands, are the ones that Comrade Chris characterized as a totality of socialism. And we're saying, as COSATU, if there's anything that we need to keep the legacy and the spirit and the fire burning in our hearts as revolutionaries, is to try and ultimately achieve these basic amenities. Comrade Kwati, as you said, if there's one wind that we must avoid, is to allow the gains of democracy to be reversed. As workers get continuously retrenched, as the gains of democracy that Comrade Chris fought for, the rights of workers to be protected in the workplace, the rights of workers to collective bargaining are continuously being reversed. We can't do so on the grave and on the life and on the shoulders of Comrade Chris. This must continuously remind us that this is not the country and the freedom that Comrade Chris fought for. And we conclude, we want to remind all of us that a revolution is not a festival of speaking. A revolution is a collective effort by all revolutionaries to transform the concrete realities of our people, and it's a collective effort to change the life of the masses of our people. And this is what we have known Comrade Chris to be fighting for, his writings, his teachings, and ultimately him laying down his life for all of us. We want to thank you, and we say, may the spirit of Comrade Chris live long. Amanda.
Amandla. Amandla. Comrades, there is a white Mac Mercedes-Benz KC 75JRGP. Your boot is open unless you are harvesting rain. It's KC 75JRGP, a white Mercedes-Benz. Thank you, Comrade Umsebenzi, for that message, because Comrade Chris was always interested in seeing the workers united and leading in this revolution. Thank you for that particular message. We will move, comrades, quickly into a next speaker before ANC. We're supposed to have a short message from Ufasimba, the YCL. Comrade Tinigo, come and give that message. YCL. YCL, YCL, yo, YCL.
Mandla, Mandla. Mandla. Long live the undying spirit of Chris Hani, long live. Long live the undying spirit of Solomon Masango, long live. Long live the undying spirit of our Tambo, long live. Chigitelo Fasimba, Chigitela. Mandla. Thank you, Program Director, the National Deputy Chair of our party. Let us take this time to pass our greetings to the Hani family, the General Sec of the Communist Party, Comrade Blade, the National Chairperson of the ANC, Comrade Gwete Mantashe, the First Deputy President of COSATU, Comrade Madala Shinganye, the entire Central Executive Committee of COSATU, the General Sec of COSATU, the officials of the party, and all CC members, our National Chairperson, Comrade Mabusempe, and the entire National Committee of the YCL, councillors from the city of Ekurhuleni, led by the Executive Mayor. Let's say all protocol observed. Comrade Chair, ours will be very short because we believe many speakers have indeed correctly outlined the character of this gallant fighter that we are here today to celebrate his life and times and to commemorate. And as he has correctly conceptualized what is socialism about, ours is not to mourn but to ask critical questions. To say, wherever he is, would he be happy about the things, how they are happening in our movement? Will he be happy on how far we have gone in making sure that indeed every person has access to health care and quality health care without a two-tier system of health? So it is a serious challenge to the governing party to make sure that we don't only honor Comrade Chris by a lip service, but we make sure that the national health insurance is realized in honor of this gallant fighter. It is our task to make sure that while we've built houses for the poor, but we still need to make sure that just like how Commandante Chavez within 4 years could build the same amount of houses that ourselves in 20 years we've built, it means we can still do better to make sure that our people continue to have access to proper housing. It is important to make sure that as we celebrate this gallant fighter, we indeed don't play a lip service in the fight against corruption. Whether it's in the public sector, whether it's the private sector, it must not be say when it's the private sector is collusion, when it's in the public sector is corruption. We must have the same energy to confront it wherever it shows its ugly head. We need to continue to make sure that our people continue to benefit the fruits of democracy. And by them benefiting is to continue providing services that are relevant, even after we've ended the national state of disaster. But it's important that we make sure that the universal basic income grant becomes a permanent issue, and we continue to take care of the young people that are still languishing in poverty, high level of unemployment that is continuing to grow unabated. And we have said through the National Development Plan that by 2030 we want to see unemployment being at 6%. And this just shows us that indeed it's a dream, because now unemployment is above 50%. So we need to pull our socks up. We need to make sure that our people must not lose patience with us, because as the national chair said in conclusion, that some of these issues is because of our own mistakes. It is important indeed to start to acknowledge where we've made mistakes, and the only way our people can forgive us is to deliver what is due to them, not to be selfish, not to use the resources that are meant for the basic services of our people to benefit our friends, our cronies and families, because this, it does not define the gallant fighter that today we're here to celebrate. Mandla. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade Tinyiko. The message is very clear. Corruption. Let's be brutal on corruption. Service delivery. Let's deal with service delivery issues. That's how we can honor Comrade Chris Hani. Comrade, as I call the message from the African National Congress, which will be delivered by Comrade Jeff Khatebe. Amandla. I-ANC yasetshenzelwa. Halala yasetshenziswa. I-ANC yasetyenzelwa. Halala yasetyenz. Halala. Halala iyoyo yasetyenze. Halala. Halala iyoyo yase.
Amandla. Amandla. Viva SSAP, viva. Viva COSATU, viva. Viva ANC, viva. Director of the program, Comrade Tulas Nesi, the General Secretary of the SACP, and other national officials of the party present here, our National Chairperson of the ANC, Comrade Gwede Mantashe, the Executive Mayor of Eguruleni, Austimpo, and the entirety of the Hani family, the Vice President of COSATU, comrades and friends. I want to thank the SACP for inviting us as the ANC to deliver a message of support on the anniversary of the brutal assassination of Chris Tembisile Hani in 1993, an event that President Nelson Mandela referred as a deed so foul. Chris was born on the 28th of June 1942 to Gilbert and Nomaise Hani in the Sibalele village in Ofimvaba. On the Sunday of the 10th of April 1993, just as the country was celebrating Easters, a heartless, anti-communist assassin, Janus Walus, ended his life in Don Park here in Boksburg. The assassin widowed his wife, Austimpo Hani, and made their children, Lindiwe, Neo, Nomakwezi, fatherless. The day was one of the darkest hours in South Africa's history. After Chris's father had explained the brutality of apartheid and the ANC's vow to end it, Chris was keen to join immediately, but his age, 12 years, was preventing him to do so. But at 15 years at Lovedale, he joined the ANC Youth League, defying the school regulations forbidding black students from participating in political activities. His internationalist approach against injustice saw him participating in the Wankie campaign, where he distinguished himself as a member and soldier of the Lutuli detachment. The struggle for our country was inextricably linked to the entirety of our region. As the second most popular leader after Nelson Mandela, Chris appealed to a swathe of radical young people. His untimely death robbed us of our hero. Our military wing, Umkhonto Wesizwe, lost its chief of staff. He was a fearless soldier
who talked truth to power. In 1969, with 6 other comrades, he co-signed the Hani Memorandum, which was critical of some of the leadership when it pertained to Umkhonto weSizwe. Female MK combatants appreciated and respected Chris for protecting their rights in the camps and promoting their well-being. Chris was a commander who never issued instructions that he would be reluctant to do himself. He led by example. What the assassin managed to do was what the apartheid regime had failed to do. Hani had to relocate to Zambia because he was always living under the threat of assassination while in exile in Lesotho. He was aware of the threat to his life. After 3 decades in exile, he admitted as much when he returned to our country of his birth, when he said, "I have lived with death most of my life. I want to live in a free South Africa, even if I have to lay down my own life." In 1992, an attempt was made on his life in central Johannesburg. A young black male tailed him around the corner of our offices. The would-be assassin entered a nearby hair salon and ignored questions about what he was doing there. Reaching for his pocket, he cocked a firearm. He dashed across the road and the saloon assistants followed him. When they saw Hani nearby, they warned him of the danger he was facing. The would-be assassin ran to the other side of the road where 2 white men in a Toyota Cressida awaited him. The vehicle took off at high speed. Its number plate was a false one and belonged to a trailer. Close to 30 years later, the full truth about his death is still elusive. The family is put under pressure to allow the assassin's release on parole without him revealing all his co-conspirators. Each time, the Hani family and South Africans have rejected the applications for his release. One conspirator, Clive W. Lewis, had his death sentence commuted to life in 1995 and passed away in 2016 after being granted medical parole. Chris could have been a scholar had he not joined the anti-apartheid struggle, registering for English, Latin, and modern and classical literature at Fort Hare University. His love for classics was well recorded. He would now and then quote from Latin text. He chose the struggle, preferring to fight apartheid than play sport. Hani's death forced the apartheid government to concede to a quicker date for the first democratic elections. However, the pain of the family and the ACCP, of which he was the General Secretary, and South Africans in general, cannot be forgotten. The democracy that we enjoy today owes its existence to Hani's and many other comrades' blood. His name will forever be etched in the history of our struggle for freedom and justice. When our generation examines the country's history and its fight for freedom, Hani's name will be with the most dedicated cadres of our movement. 29 years after his assassination, Hani still speaks to us. His life was celebrated with 8 posthumous citations and military medals. The University of Cape Town named a lecture hall in his honor. The Chris Hani Memorial Lectures continue to honor him. There are many other recognitions by various institutions and organizations which keep Hani's dedication to the cause of his people very much alive. Despite his excellent leadership, Hani allowed to be led by his political seniors. When the ANC suspended the armed struggle in August 1990, it was a strategic, even though unpopular, decision. After 15-hour marathon negotiations, the state then conceded to a phased release of 1,300 prisoners and a return of more than 22,000 from exile. As a commander, he was the one who had to persuade soldiers to follow the political decision. This might have been difficult for a commander, but he felt fully behind the political decision. Hani's assassination came when he was on the road to preach peace and reconciliation. Some elements of the white establishment did not want peace and were bent on continuing their unjust rule over black people. In 1993, a series of seminal papers on the future of Marxism was delivered at the University of California by French philosopher Jacques Derrida. Derrida collated the lectures into a book dedicated to Chris Hani. At the 8th conference in Komani in the Eastern Cape, just this last Saturday, NEC member Dr. Motsoaledi appealed to ANC members to do good to the name of their district. He complained that there was a tendency of naming things after our icons, but doing the direct opposite after that. Institutions named after him should emulate his dedication to his people. Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, the biggest on the African continent, should prioritize its service to its patients in the manner Hani would. The Tembisile Hani local municipality officials should also do justice to the name they were named after. Hani never aspired to positions. When Joe Slovo did not avail himself because of ill health in 1991 at the first Congress after our unbanning, Hani's name was raised. Hani declined the nomination because of the conflict of interest, as he was the then chief of staff of MK. When the delegates insisted, Mandela relented and released him from the position. All contestants should have the same level of reasoning rather than be ready to eliminate their opponents to gain position. We should be well advised. We should be well advised not to have our leaders chosen by institutions outside the electoral process and who are not in our organizations. Members of the Alliance should continue to take a leaf from Hani's selfless leadership. The Alliance has faced numerous challenges and needs to refocus to find lasting solutions. For example, each time labor statistics are released by States SA, we hold our collective breath because the numbers of unemployment are rising. Members should apply themselves to the changing patterns. As the world of work changes, we should adapt to it and introduce education and training that will respond to it. Our alliance was forged in the anvil of oppression by the white government. When Hani was assassinated, the shock reverberated through our country, and the ANC suffered a big blow in the middle of negotiations. Thanks to the ANC's leadership of Mandela, we seized the moment to make advances. Despite the assassination's brutality and intention of inciting a civil war, they strengthened their hands in negotiations. The assassination exposes the double agenda of the National Party leadership. Without the means to quell the anger, it was left to the ANC leadership under Mandela to refocus attention on the issue at hand. It was shown during Hani assassination, Mandela and other leaders managed to cool our tempers. We were very hot, Comrade Blake, do you remember that? And brought the country from the throes of destruction. The Alliance's superior sense of the country's destiny prevailed. When police found a list of 19 names to be assassinated, it was clear that the intention was to throw the country into turmoil. Hani was third on that assassination list. The ANC supports all efforts of the ACCP in getting to the bottom of Hani's assassination. There are many loose ends and many allegations. While we support the truth, we should always be careful not to be misdirected by the marketed conspiracy theories. The Alliance should be safeguarded from external forces which wish for demise since it was consummated in the 1950s. The efforts to create a schism in the Alliance always surface towards the general elections. Many negative forces goad the partners to go it alone. They cast doubts on the effectiveness of one without the other. They do not out of love for the Alliance, but of desire to destroy our solid relations. In October 1992, The apartheid Minister of Injustice, Kobe Kutsi, was more forthright about his hatred for the alliance. Like many others after him, he called on the ANC to cut links with the Communist Party and emphasize particularly one Chris Hani. Corruption has become endemic in our society. Political charlatans aspire to office because they want to amass illegal wealth and self-aggrandize. Funds to improve lives of the poor are misappropriated by scrupulous officials. What would Chris be saying when his organization is eating itself out of existence? What do we do today to prevent many anti-alliance pundits about our chances for electoral victory in 2024? To honor Hani, we need an overwhelming electoral victory. What lessons can we learn from Chris Hani's leadership to return the dignity of our organizations to its past glory? He would have realized that a hidden hand is encouraging these divisions. Chris Hani speaks to us today because he seeks unity of purpose. This is what he lived for, and that is what he died for. He never sought personal glory. He sought to serve the undivided movement for the total emancipation of all South Africans. As this movement fights against itself and is dominated by cliques and infighting, Chris is very sad that his beloved organization is ripping itself apart. In his honor, we need to be fighting divisions and factions. Chris would love nothing more than to see his organization united once more. He would be asking us to be true to our values, to continue improving our people's lives. On this 29th anniversary of this cowardly act, the ANC stands fully behind the SACP. Long live the spirit of Chris Hani, long live. Long live SACP, long live. Long live the Alliance, long live. Thank you.
Hiole hlale hlathini, 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 hiole hlale, hiole hlale. Yenyamazana, yenyamazana, yenyamazana. Thank you, comrades. Thank you very much, Comrade Jeff. It's very good, this history for our young people, and also to remind us, even if we are old. Thetha nzimande, izanzimande. Thetha nzimande, zimande thetha komanisi. Zongena kanjani, ongena kanjani, zongena kanjani. Yena kanjani, thetha nzimande, nzimande thetha komanisi. Thetha nzimande, nzimande thetha komanisi. Amandla, uweke nobhala.
Thank you. Amandla. Long live the memory of Chris Hani, long live. Viva the African National Congress, viva. Viva the SACP, viva. Viva COSATU, viva. Viva the YCL Fasimba, viva. Forward to socialism, forward. Phansi ne-capitalism, phansi. Phansi nokudelezwa, phansi. Phansi nge-neoliberalism, phansi. Phansi nge-state capture, phansi. Long live our alliance, long live. Amandla. Thank you very much, Comrade Tulas Ngesi, our Deputy National Chair and Program Director. Let me start by greeting the Hani family, starting with Ausdimpo, Nolindi here, and our very special granddaughter, Ukaya. Uyabona ubhuti Chris lo esimbona lapha Ausdimpo. Ukuhlulile ubhuti Chris kulo yamzukulu. Yes, he beat you. We want to say to the Hani family, as I greet, thank you very much for having shared Uput Chris whilst he was alive, and you continue to share his memory with us, even when he passed away 29 years ago. That's very special. It means a lot to us. Respect to you as the family and our appreciation. Let me greet Comrade Gwede Mantashe, the chair of the ANC, who is here in his capacity as a government minister, and your term as the president has expired. Let me also greet Comrade Jeff Katebe, representing the ANC here, and all the leaders of the ANC who are here. Comrade Solima Paila, Comrade Joyce, Muloi Moropa, and other leaders of the SACP who are here. Comrade Mike Shinange, First Vice President of COSATU and the leadership of COSATU. The Mayor of Ekurhuleni. I suppose this has been corrected. You are alderwoman, not alderman. Alderwoman Campbell. If that has not been corrected, it must be corrected. You can't be a woman and be an alderman. We must correct that, Comrade Jenny. And all political parties of Ekurhuleni. Madam Mayor, we want to appreciate that you continue to honor this resolution that every year on the 10th of April, we gather here to honor the memory Kaput Chris, as some of us called him. Comrade Tinyi Kontini, the National Secretary of the YCL, and to all the comrades who are here in their various positions, and also those who have joined us, as you normally do, comrades, every year. We appreciate this. It's raining today, it's cold, but you are here. That is very important, that indeed the memory of Uput Chris shall never disappear. Today marks the 29th year since the assassination of our General Secretary of the SACP. Mfundisi, to remind you, April 10 in 1993 was Easter Saturday. It was a Saturday, the 10th of April, 1993. 29 years later, there has been no full disclosure of truth. Thus, justice, as Comrade Jeff was saying, is yet to take its course. Because of that, we've moved into this 29th Chris Hani annual commemoration with a wound that is still gaping, that has not stopped bleeding. As a result, the Hani family has not found closure. There's been no closure for the SACP, and there's been no closure for the people of our country. All we want is the truth. That is what will bring closure to all of us. We still stand firm. Some people say we are evil. We stand firm that there shall be no parole for an unrepentant assassin. Janusz Walush. 29 years later, he remains unremorseful and has not moved an inch to make full disclosure of the truth surrounding the assassination of our late General Secretary. He claims he's showing remorse. This is absolutely nothing but a tick box exercise. I've met this Hani family. I've been to so many classes in jail and so on. We don't want a tick box. We want the truth. That is what we want. We have said Janus Walush can walk out of prison tomorrow if he answers for us some of these issues and questions. We must repeat this even for the younger generation, comrades, because we mustn't take this thing for granted that because some of us were there, then everybody knows. Who, we are still asking, took the Z88 pistol from the military armory during that apartheid era for the assassins to use to assassinate Chris? Whose hands did the murder weapon go through? It was taken, this gun that killed Chris was stolen from the army, and it was fitted with a silencer. And then it was tested in a farm. The question we're asking, where was the silencer bought? By who? Where was it fitted? And where was it tested? And how did it then reach Janus Walush? When Janus Walush was arrested and Clive W. Lewis, there was a list, as Comrade Jeff was saying, and addresses of all the leaders who were supposed to be killed. And that list was with the wife of Clive W. Lewis. She's still alive. And we want to tell her that to remind her she knows it. But Clive W. Lewis was smart to save her, and rather for Clive W. Lewis to take the fall. It was very clear. In that list was included not only Chris, but Nelson Mandela was in that list. Which means there was a clear pattern. Now, we are not evil. If these things are not going to be repeated in our country, we must know the truth. All these have not been answered, these questions. It's not us, by the way, saying that. In the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, W. Lewis and Janus Walush were not given amnesty because they didn't answer these questions. And these questions have not been answered till today. We're also very concerned, by the way. Former acting president for a few hours here. We are still very concerned that we are told that in Home Affairs somehow there was an attempt that if Clive W. Lewis gets released, he must immediately be shipped to Poland, where he will be received as a hero. I was talking to Comrade Motsoaledi, saying to me he's worried about that. They are trying to go into depth. Who is this person who then said, Clive W. Lewis is no longer a South African citizen, so that when he gets released, he must go. Ubani owenza loo nto? So there are so many of these things that just makes us completely unhappy. Every normal person in our country reacts with outrage against criminality in general, including gender-based violence, including rape, femicide, armed robbery. We are all united in calling for tougher sanctions against perpetrators. However, like the assassins who stole Chris Hani's life, depriving him of his supreme right to life, those perpetrators could simply resort to pretensions of remorse. How can we forget that the assassination of Chris Hani was planned and carried out in defense of a racist oppressor regime? How can we ever forget that this assassination was aimed at plunging South Africa into a civil war, underpinned by the interests of the apartheid ruling class, as well as those who supported and benefited from racial oppression and the super exploitation of the black majority? Comrade Chris, this is the cruelty of all this. Comrade Chris was taken by the very system that he spent his whole life fighting against. This month we also remember Kalushi Mahlangu, Solomon. The apartheid regime hanged him on the 6th of April 1979. One CDJ Teron, the apartheid judge who imposed the death sentence on Mahlangu on the 2nd of March 1978, did so despite indisputable evidence that Kalushi was not involved in that shooting they were accused of. Though Kalushi indeed was an MK soldier, and a brave one at that. The list of the freedom fighters and the victims who were killed by the successive colonial and apartheid oppressor regime in our country is very long indeed. And we know that there are still many instances where these things have not been closed. Now, we want to take this opportunity as the SACP to reiterate our support for the decision announced by the National Prosecuting Authority in December last year that it has engaged 25 prosecutors to investigate over 60 cases referred to it by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We are late, but nevertheless, better late than never. In cases such as, there are many cases. We can cite the case of the killing of Ahmed Timol. Very sad that as the truth comes out, one of the people who knew what happened to the killing of Ahmed Timol passed away. Unokuthula Simelane, the Xhosas 4, uJustice Madikela, uNtshingo Matabuche, Fanyana Nhlapo, and the Craddock 4, uMatthew Goniwe 4th Calata, Sparrow Mkhonto, and Sicelo Mhlawuli, and many other of our comrades who fell. The truth must ultimately be established. Abanye bathi, yeah, Onzimande are no longer following the example of Nelson Mandela. It's an insult to Utata. Utata said, yes, we may forgive, but we must never forget. How dare we forget? This abuse of the name of the old man must come to an end. The old man didn't say that we must actually forget. And these processes must be followed, not because we want to do the road that we have traveled, but we can't actually have a situation where the truth does not come out. And also we want to say, reconciliation is not a one-sided process. Today there are still elements in our society who are only expecting that only the black majority must forgive, but they on their side are not prepared to forgive. And they are pursuing these things by going to court every day, challenging the advances that we have made as a country, as Comrade Ukwete was saying. That is actually lack of forgiveness on their part, or lack of coming to the pot, coming to the party to say reconciliation is a two-way process. Our very own democracy today is being abused by those elements who are going to court every day to try and undermine. When we are a democracy, we are not saying what you can't go to court. Kodwa ukucwenza okuningi kokuya enkantolo lokho ukuthi thina ndlemnyama asinamalungelo noma sesikhululekile noma sesabulawelwa abaholi bethu abanjengo Chris Hani, kodwa asinamalungelo kulelizwe, lelizwe kuseyelabo, sebefuna ukulibuyisa ngezinye indlela ngezikhali zedemocracy elethwe yithi kulelizwe. We must not allow that. Comrades, we have got huge priorities. The single biggest enemy we are faced with today is unemployment, especially youth unemployment. We should be committing ourselves on this platform that in honor of Ubud Chris, we are going to unite ourselves to actually defeat youth unemployment and build an inclusive economy. Comrades, this year, our three main alliance partners are going to their congresses. Kuqala SACP kuqala in July, a few months from now. And we want to say to the SACP, set an example of how congresses of our organizations to be handled. Then follows the COSAT. Comrade Mark, ngiyambona nangu nobhala wakho bengingakamboni uComrade uBheki. Kunjani phakani? Singasifuna ukungathi siphoqa abanye abantu kodwa samabhakabhaka abanye bethu siyaziwa. No-But Chris wayebhakaniya, by the way. Yes, wayebhakaniya uBut Chris. Nangu Austin is our witness. He was a big Pirates fan. Ngelinye ilanga wabanja groundini uBut Chris. Oh, waxolisa emhlanganweni we-ANC. Kanti ufuna ukuya kwidabi. Egroundini. Yayisihlalile kuyena iTV. Nangu uBut Chris obethe akazukuze emhlanganweni because unenye i-commitment somewhere. Nangu ukwidabi. But samxolela uBut Chris ngoba wese ephuma kwi-exile, ephuma kwi-underground, kade agcina ukubuka leli bhakaniya lithandayo. Comrades, then kulandela iCOSAT ngoSeptember. We expect iCOSAT Congress ukuthi ihambe kahle. Bese kulandela ke le nkulu kwi-conference kunawo wonke amanye. Le African National Congress ngoDecember. Nayo sithi ayihambe kahle le conference. We need to say this because the Morogoro conference was convened as a result of uBut Chris and others raising concerns about the state of the movement that was not ideal at the time. Let's all be like Chris Hani. Let's use our conferences not to divide ourselves, not to factionalize ourselves, but to place the interests of the overwhelming majority of our people number one in all these three conferences. And that's the workers and the poor of this country. It's true. It's true. Into ebishiwo la. Ukuthi sekhona njengaleli culo yabona elithi iANC yasetshenzelwa. It's a very important song. But kwabanye bayalishintsha ingoma. Bathi beyicula nathi bebethi iANC yasetshenziswa. Because they want to use our organizations to enrich themselves. The biggest enemy of our revolution is money today. It is money and corruption. You get a strategy of people working to capture certain structures of the organization so that then they can go and capture municipal budgets and distribute patronage and enrich themselves. We must have no tolerance of that. Comrades, let's use our conferences to reflect on what happened in local government elections last year. And reflect honestly and correct what needs to be corrected. There is no revolution that does not make mistakes. But the maturity of any revolution is judged by its capacity to be able to identify those mistakes and come up with methods to correct those mistakes. Awukho umzabalazo ongenamaphutha. Ubabgola wayehlaleso, ungabona ama-comrades exabana, awenzi lutho ahleli. Acabanga osathane bodwa. Acabanga ukuthi umbutho bazoweba kanjani. Comrades, uComrade uGwede is right. I don't know noma bekhuluma njengomongameli ngaleso sikhathi noma besekhuluma njengosihlalo ANC, but he is right ukuthi our biggest enemy is us. It's not the opposition that won in November last year, it's the ANC that lost. The two things are different because senze izinto okungafanele ukuthi sizenze. Kwathiwa ke awusidimpo singakhulumi lezi zinto la uma sikule platform. Ube soft awusidimpo namhlanje, right uGwede. She should have been rough as she always does. Comrades, let me say the last thing, which we can't finish a commemoration like this without saying it. You know, when ANC and SACP took a decision that on 16 December 1961, we are launching i-armed struggle and we are forming Umkhonto Wesizwe. The ANC and the SACP at that time, they did not do that because they liked war. They did that in order to use MK to impose peace in South Africa. Ubabukhola wayayibeke kanjalo. Athi uyabona mshana, uma ngabe singakwazi ukuthi silethe uxolo eSouth Africa nase KZN ngaleza ikhathi asil impose. And today, if truth be told, we will not be here. Even in the early 1990s when Comrade Chris's life was lost. Before it was lost, he was with us to build self-defense committees. We formed those self-defense committees not because we are warmongers, it's because we wanted peace. Even today, as there is this conflict in the Ukraine, we are saying we are against war and there must always be peace. But we can't do that by telling lies about what is happening in Ukraine. What is the cause of the problem? As Comrade Ukwete was saying, there is one cause of the conflict in Ukraine. It's the United States and its NATO alliance. What did they do? Let's tell this history. Before the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, there was an agreement between the United States and the Soviet Union then, as they were talking about the reunification of Germany in 1989. They agreed that NATO is not going to move even 1 inch towards the east, towards where Russia was. That was an agreement. And that agreement was inherited by Russia because Russia inherited all the agreements that were made by the Soviet Union. No sooner had the Soviet Union collapsed, the then President Bill Clinton invaded and divided Yugoslavia. Today there is no Yugoslavia as a result of the United States breaking a solemn agreement. Today, NATO is moving. It wants to go into Ukraine next to Russia, and then they expect Russia to fold its arms. It's very interesting, comrades, because the United States has got what is called a Monroe Doctrine. Since you can Google these days, go and Google Monroe Doctrine, M-O-N-R-O-E. That doctrine says Latin America and South America is the sphere of influence of the United States. No other force that is opposed to the United States will be allowed by the United States to come into Latin America and South America. Russia can't go and place its soldiers on the border of the United States with Mexico. Today, Cuba is under an illegal criminal blockade because it decided to pursue socialism in a sphere which is called the US's sphere of influence. Imele in a sphere of influence, but if ukuyongena kwezinye indawo zabantu Of all the countries that have got nuclear weapons, only the United States has got some of its nuclear weapons placed outside of its borders. No other country has actually got that. Now, umhlola. Sengiyaqeda thisha omkhulu. Ubone hypocrisy of oppressors, how terrible it is. I'm going to read you something here. Russia is condemned for its attack on Ukraine. And the condemnation goes like this. I quote, "The acquisition of territory by force is illegitimate and a blatant violation of international law," unquote. Who is saying this? Israel. A rogue apartheid state that is daily killing Palestinian civilians, women and children. It's what Russia is doing is not to be done. They are doing it every day with the support and the condonation of the United States of America and NATO. Kuthiwa, the United States and Europe are the greatest democracies on earth. Bangivaleli RT television, man. I can't watch it. I can't watch Russian television. I can't listen to one of my favorite radio stations sometimes. It's Sputnik. So much for democracy. But comrades, when we say this as the SACP, it's not because we are fans of Russia. We don't like the fact that Russia is a capitalist country that is ruled by oligarchs who have actually squandered the wealth, the sweat, and the blood of the Soviet working class over a 70-year period. That there are oligarchs who are owning Chelsea is because of the sweat and blood of the Soviet working class over 70 years. We are not supporting, but we cannot say we are then going to lie. So immediately South Africa, there is one in News 24. They tell us they come and lecture to us. Who are they to come and lecture to us when that News 24 was formed by apartheid regime as naspers? Today they come to want to tell us a lie. We want peace in Ukraine, but we don't only want peace in the Ukraine, we want peace in the whole world, which is what Uput Chris stood for. The lives of the Ukrainians are not more important than the lives of the Palestinians. They are not more important than the lives of the Syrians. They are not more important than the lives of the Libyans. They are no more important than the lives of the Iraqis. They are not more important than the lives of the children and women of Yemen who are being killed today. We say we can't focus. Just because now the whole of the West is focusing on the Ukraine, we now must forget about the fact that there are wars in other parts of the world. The best way to honor Uchonyane is to fight for peace everywhere else in the world. That's what he lived and died for. Siyekeni ngepropaganda yokuzositshela ukuthi Ukraine is as a result of Russia. We support the government on its stance. It's a sensible stance to say let there be negotiations. And we must not continue being bullied here. Let there be negotiations and mediation. We want that war to end. Not tomorrow, but today. We want the war, the conflict in the Ukraine to come to an end. And that would be the best way we honor the memory of Leli Kaweletu, Elelela Namhlanje, Uchonyane. Iphathi yasetshenziswa alala
yasetshenziswa
iphathi yasetshenziswa
halala yasetshenziswa
ayithengwa ngethenda
halala
hey!
yasetshenziswa
ayithengwa ngathenda
halala
alala
iyasetshenzela
ANC yasetshenzelwa halala
iyasetshenzela
ikhosathu yasetshenzelwa halala
iyasetshenzela
ayithengwa ngethenda
halala iyasetshenzela
ayitholwa ngathenda
halala iyasetshenzela halala halala iyoyo iyasetshenzela halala halala iyoyo iyasetshenzela ANC yasebeletswa alala yasebe ANC yasebeletswa halala yasebe halala halala yeah. Thank you, comrades. Siyabulela nobhala. Sisikolo esi. Sisikolo esi, umkhabulo sisikolo ukuqala pha ku-comrade Chingange. Saya ku-comrade Utinyiko. Saya ku-national chair sathetha nge-ego, which is destroying our organizations. I hope nivile. Kuthiwa kunenye i-method ngoku-chairperson, national chair we-ANC. I-delegates, when they go to the conference, ezenye i-faction zithathwe zinikwe utywala, zivalelwe, zitshixelwe ngaphakathi. Zingakwazi ukuyovota, zawuvulelwa xa sokugqitywa ukuvota. Comrades, if this country moves out of the hands of this movement, there's no future in this country. You know where we're coming from. All these tendencies must stop. Just egameni likachonyana. You listened the pain on how Comrade Jeff was relating what happened during the killing of Chris Hani. That pain, what it meant to the nation. You've just heard from the General Secretary of the SACP as to what are the implications. But sonke sibuza umbuzo. Uba uChris Hani sasimthanda ngubani wambulala. Uwalusi yayisisandla nje. Who is the hand behind? Chris Hani was an internationalist. That's why Nobala had to talk about world peace, which we need, because he was fighting for a new social order, a new world order, where there's peace. Comrades, there's one speaker now who has to come and close and thank all of you who have been here. None other than the first Deputy General Secretary of COSATU, of SACP, not COSATU, Comrade Solima Pael.
Thank you, sir. I know, sanitize. Amandla. Matla. All power. Forward to socialism, forward. Down with capitalism, down. Long live the alliance, long live. Long live the undying spirit of Comrade Chris Hani, long live. Thank you very much, Program Director, Comrade Tula Sinesi, our National Deputy Chairperson. My task is to just thank all of you who have attended this important occasion to remember our late General Secretary, a father, a husband, uncle, and everything else, but most importantly, a leader of our people, Comrade Chris Hani. Let me thank first our dear Reverend Mapatwe, who opened our program with the prayers. Chaplain of Umkhonto weSizwe, revolutionary in his own right, and ever-present comfort to the family kaChris Hani. Siyabonga. Baba Mapatwe, le message ngakutshela ngayo ngikonfirmile namhlanje nolindiwe si sharp. Yeah, message we go Mamhan. Let me thank the mayor, the executive mayor of Ekurhuleni, Umam Campbell, for hosting us today and for your clarity of understanding of this occasion. And also for articulating clearly the Triple H campaign that Comrade Chris Hani fought for, and for the commitment of this municipality towards that campaign. I'm born in this municipality. I'm proud of the legacy of Comrade Chris, and I'm happy that the council is taking this memory forward. And to thank all members of council from different political parties that are here today and that have continued to support this program. We thank you very much. And of course, most importantly, to thank House Dimpo and the entire Hani family present here today, Lindy Hani, the daughter of Comrade Chris, and House Dimpo, as well as her daughter, Kaya. Now, Kaya, thank you very much for attending today. I don't know what your mom said to convince you to come today, but I've got a special present for you. The Young Communist League and the ANC Youth League and COSAS and SASCO, they are going to form a delegation to take you and your friends back here and introduce you here to this important cemetery where your grandfather's remains are lying. And they are going to take you through this monument. This place, it's a monument, okay? From where the gravesite is, where you put the wreath this morning, all this way, up to that side, to the ends. This is a wall of remembrance for all revolutionary martyrs from this region, those who fought alongside your grandfather for the freedom we enjoy today. We appreciate your presence today, my dear.
Let me also thank Ausdimpo for a message, particularly for your resistance over the years, despite the provocations from the killers of your husband. And your message about your deep concern for South Africa's children, that has humbled us and indeed serves as an inspiration for us to continue the struggle for socialism and to end these inequalities. And to thank the Nkobi family for being present with us here today. And thank Minister Gwede Mantashe who imposed a 30-minute presidency unto himself for his insightful contribution and his boldness in articulating political messages, even when you are occupying a government platform. There's no Chinese wall between a political message in government, because you are a deployee of a political party in government that had sold the election manifesto to the people of this country. And I appreciate your contribution in this regard and the political task that you have outlined. And thank Ms. Bakang Litoko, MMC for Health and Social Development in the city, for a vote of thanks to all those who participated in the first part of the program. And Comrade Nyiko Ntini, the National Secretary of our Young Communist League, for his clearest message, particularly about corruption and the core values that you are enjoining Comrade Chris Hani's legacy. We wish you well, and the Young Communist League and all the youth of our country, to pursue his legacy. And to thank Deputy President of COSATU, Comrade Mike Shingange, indeed, for your clear message, particularly about the collective nature of challenges facing our country, that they require all of us to tackle them, all of society. And for representing workers consistently with clear, concise, and also for reminding us that colonialism and imperialism played a major role, particularly in reversing the gains of our democracy and also in the death of Chris, as well as many other African martyrs like Thomas Sankara and others, and to remind us about our Pan-Africanism and why the Organization of African Unity, as an addition to that of your Pan-Africanism, was established on the 25th of May 1963. That actually declared subsequently that no African is a foreigner in Africa. Siyabulela, Deputy President, and to appreciate the presence as well of General Secretary of COSATU, Comrade Beki Nchali Ipaganea. Siyabonga Tiger for your presence. And to thank Comrade Jeff Radebe for his message on behalf of the ANC and highlighting clearly Chris Hani's internationalism and his role in the Wanken Spolilo operation, his work in Lesotho, in Botswana, in Zambia, in Tanzania, and many other places. And thank you as well for reminding us that the revolution must always take refuge amongst the masses. That is why when those workers in a saloon came out to say that this behavior of that stooge who was sent to kill Comrade Chris was exposed, because the workers, when they saw their leader amongst them and they saw somebody behaving suspiciously, they immediately alerted our security team. Siyabonga, Comrade Jeff, the revolutionaries must learn the masses must always be our refuge. and for many issues that you raised regarding the complementary role of the alliance partners, that we are not in competition, we are pursuing the same task and objectives. Thank you very much. And to our General Secretary, Mpepeto, Baushisa, Uchonyan will be very proud the way you articulated your message today on behalf of the SACP. You were very clear. You articulated everything with absolute clarity, particularly just to pick up the consistent message why the Communist Party and the Hani family have always sought the truth. People have called us names about this. They have called us Dimpo names. Even one judge in a court lost it. But we responded. And that message remains consistent. We still don't have answers today. Let me also say, George Orwell was a revolutionary, a Communist Party member in France, but who's known as an author, had indicated one day that to be truthful, it's revolutionary. So seeking that truth remains important for us. And for many others who are still seeking truth for, that we have articulated from this table today, we thank you very much. And thank you very much also for your message that was very clear about our fight against gender-based violence, sexism, and patriarchy in our society, and our commitment to create an unsexist society. You were very clear, Nopala, mangukubonga kahle ukuthi mangi-summarize le input yakho. Ayikho lula kuyi-summarize. But let me say, firstly, for acknowledging the heroic role of MK that Comrade Chris led as not only Chief of Staff, but one of the most heroic soldiers and combatant of Umkhonto weSizwe, whose exploits are known in the then Rhodesia, in the Wankian Spolilo operation that Comrade Jeff was speaking about. That heroic role of MK should never be forgotten. And this is a great symbol of what Comrade Chris Hani stood for. He succeeded Joe Slovo, who was also General Secretary of the Communist Party and Chief of Staff of Umkhonto weSizwe. Lo mlungu, some of the stooges, police of the apartheid regime never even thought that he was a white man. They used to think that he's a black man. They were abelungu bebamfuna ngakhona. So siyabonga ukuthi you highlighted this point very well. But I wanted to say that your clear message today was that the revolution and its defense are inseparable. Today we must use new instruments to defend and continue our revolution under a democratic dispensation. So we need mobilization of our people to make sure that all instruments of our democracy that Comrade Chris fought for are utilized to defend our freedom and our revolution. And of course, for acknowledging not only and clarifying this question about Ukraine and bringing to the fore the 2+1 agreement that was reached by the world powers on the matter of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and Russia and the powers USA, France, and Britain, as well as at that time involving the two Germans that were divided, East and West Germany. And of course, for not only acknowledging, although in a light sense, Comrade Chris' role in sports, but acknowledging his support for Orlando Pirates, the people's team. But to say Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs, both of them played a major role in supporting our liberation movement in the fight against apartheid. I hope that Dr. Ivan Khoza and Ubabu Keza Mtaung will one day find the strength to write this piece of history. Because indeed these two teams played a role in supporting the liberation movement. And of course, Morocco Swallows, Yes, indeed, Reverend Mapatwa, I agree. The three giants, there's no doubt about it. The three giants, there's no doubt about it. But let me thank all of you for participating here today, from the city manager and the entire team, for pulling together a wonderful event today. We really appreciate, even in the rain, that we welcome. And to clarify and thank Councillor Dlamini for leading our session earlier, and to say to him, rain is always welcome. In Umkhonto we used to say, Reverend Mapatswe, there's no rain in the army, there's army in the rain. Let's welcome the rain all the time. Amandla, forward to socialism, forward. Long live the undying memory of Comrade Chris Hani, long live. Thank you very much, Program Director.